Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. I really hate it when some people just can't let go of the past. Stupid debt collectors. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at my top 10 games I won't play without the expansion. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so the top 10 games I won't play without the expansion. Now, when I say that, I mean a lot of these games, I guess if I were somewhere and somebody was saying, hey, you want to play this game, and I don't have the expansion, I might be willing to, I guess. But generally speaking, these are games that I just can't see myself, if I have the choice, playing them without the expansion again. First of all, a few honorable mentions, and I should point out I'm ranking them in how much fun I have with the base game and the expansion combined there, obviously, so that's just my opinion. But honorable mentions: Ecos, the First Continent. The First Continent is a great way to enhance Ecos, which is a great kind of bingo game, but you kind of can chase trying to make the continent look certain ways and create certain geographic forms. Great little addition to that game. Tiny towns with fortunes. You get the money. You can use them. You can spend the money to kind of ignore what other people are calling for to get your own building materials, your own cubes. That is a fun thing too, and they're also worth victory points. Just a fun little way that enhances the game. I would always prefer to play with that than without. All right, now moving on to my top 10. Number 10 is from Stone Mayer Games, Expeditions Gears of Corruption. This one just came out here in this last year. This is bringing a lot more cards to the game. It's also bringing kind of I can't remember what it's called, but like the rogue mech is on the board, which can move of its own volition and try to go ahead and grab things. The expansion also just brings some kind of quality life improvements to the game. You have a kind of dual layered boards, which are great because it was very in the original boards in the original game. Kind of a lot of your tokens would slide off the board and whatnot. Here, they stay on the board a lot better. But just overall, like I say, there's just more fun options, more great cards. Really enjoyed Expedition Gears of Corruption. That is my number 10. That is from Stone Mayer Games. My number 9 is Clank Catacombs, Layers, and Lost Chambers. This is another one I just played this year. And Layers and Lost Chambers is a great addition to Clank Catacombs. Clank Catacombs is such an improvement over traditional Clank, where you're building the dungeon as you're moving through it. It is so much fun. I really love this game. But this brings in some more features. It's got some more kind of like movement tiles that give you certain bonuses or things that will hurt you as you move through them that I really like. But critically, it's got some really cool new places. It's got the monsters like the three warriors. I can't remember what they were called, but you've also got the lion, the sphinx is there. I think it's there. Medusa, she's there, and you're fighting her, and they all bring in some fun and new rules to the game quite a bit. Clank Catacombs is just a fun game. This gives you, again, more great tiles, more opportunities for loot and fun stuff like that. But it's just a fantastic, fantastic game. So that is Clank Catacombs, Layers and Lost Chambers. That is from Direwolf. My number 8 is Moonrakers, and the expansion is either Overlord or Nomad. I think you can mix them too. Overlord. So Moonrakers is a great game. It's a great deck building game that has negotiation. Negotiation is one of my favorite mechanics in any game, and this does it so well because it's so simple. But every time you're going to do something, just about every time you're going to do something, you have to get people to help you, and you have to negotiate for not only the rewards but also the potential dangers. So I really, really enjoy that quite a bit. Overload brings in some new, more powerful cards that you can acquire during the game, which I felt really enhanced it. It really gave you some great new options, and it to me it just made the game so much better right there. Now, the Nomad expansion kind of mixes things up because now you've got kind of a geographic board where you go to different sections of that board to find the different missions, which was very cool. But the coolest part of that expansion is it adds event cards, and the event cards every turn really mix things up and really made that a lot of fun. So I really enjoy Moonrakers on its own, but you throw on one of these expansions, I love it. There was a third expansion, Binding Ties, which I liked, but I didn't love, not like these others. So this is Moonrakers, and again, it's the Overload or the Nomad expansion. That is my number 8. That is from 4 Studios. Number 7 from BoardGameTables.com is QE Commodities. Now, QE is a great game. It is essentially a bidding game where you can bid on these various resources, these companies or whatever, and you can bid as much as you want to bid. You can outbid anybody every single time. But at the end of the game, whoever bid the most is automatically eliminated. It's such a simple system. But when you add commodities into it, the person who bids the second highest can grab a commodity of their choice. And there's different kinds of commodities: gold, oil, crypto, that all have their own kind of unique scoring properties to them. And what's cool is the auctioneer who essentially sells them that commodity, whatever they sold it for acts as a negative at the end of the game to their overall how much they spent. So it's a great way to mix up the game. I love QE. It's quick, it's fast, and it is a whole lot of fun. I laugh a lot with this game. That is QE Commodities. That is from BoardGameTables.com. That is my number 7. My number 6 is kind of one of the great civilization buildings of all time, coincidentally named Civilization: A New Dawn, and this expansion is Terra Incognita. Now, the Civilization game, A New Dawn game, was a great game to begin with, but it always kind of felt like it petered out toward the end. Combat wasn't really that good in it. That's kind of where they dropped the ball. And some of the cards I felt were a little overpowered. The Terra Incognita expansion gives you some more kind of objectives and options when it came to military stuff. And critically, you have units. Essentially, you have army units that are moving around the board, and that is cool. It replaced some of the kind of more problematic cards, and it even adds space for a 5th player. So there's a lot of great stuff in this expansion, or in this expansion, that makes a good game just a lot better. I really liked it, and I don't think I'd ever play it again without that expansion. So that is Civilization: A New Dawn, Terra Incognita. That is Fantasy Flight Games, and that is my number 6. My number 5, also from Fantasy Flight Games, is Star Wars Outer Rim: Unfinished Business. Now, Star Wars Outer Rim is a great game. Outer Rim, it's you're playing the bounty hunters and the ne'er-do-wells in the Star Wars universe. You can be Han Solo or Lando Calrissian or Boba Fett or what have you. A lot of great characters from the Star Wars universe that you can play. The expansion, of course, brings new ships, new characters, new encounter cards. So there's a lot more just cards you're going through and have more adventures. But one of the things this game brings that really makes it awesome are the ambition cards. Essentially, you have your own ways to score, kind of own personal missions and stuff that you're trying to do. That really made it more fun instead of just kind of a general, we're all kind of playing the same game here. Really, I wouldn't say it really gives you asymmetrical power so much as it just gives you your own goals to chase, which I really like. You've also got debt tokens. You can help other people out and make them help you out with those debt tokens, which is adds another little layer of ambition or negotiation to the game, which is already a great game. But Unfinished Business just heightens it and makes it so much better. So that is Star Wars Outer Rim: Unfinished Business. That is my number 5, and that is from Fantasy Flight Games. My number 4, also from Fantasy Flight Games, this is Unfathomable from the Abyss. Again, one I played here fairly recently. So Unfathomable is a great game. You're on a sea voyage from Europe to America, and your ship gets attacked by these sea monsters, right? And it's Lovecraftian, it's Cthulhu-esque. It's 1920 or something like that. And you're sailing across the ocean, and these monsters are trying to attack you. You're all working together to try to save the ship, to try to get safely to port. But again, one or more of you is secretly working for the bad guys. So it is a great experience. It is a great game on its own. But again, the expansion just makes it so much better. You have more monsters, more individual monsters that have kind of their own things that are going on that are like one of them you can't actually kill. All you can do is just kind of push them away. You're trying to push them out on deck or off the ship when the ritual is done. So there's really cool monsters there. But then you've also got things like prelude cards, and the prelude cards are kind of a way you can adjust difficulty. You can make it more difficult for the humans, less difficult for the humans by having, depending on how many of these cards you're going to pass out at the beginning of the game. They just kind of maybe will give you different things or set the dials at different ways. It just gives you a lot more stuff in that regard. Critically, too, you also have allies. Allies are characters, they're NPCs on the game that may give you special bonuses and special help at certain times. And of course, you have to spend cards in order to activate them. But it's just another little nuance, little aspect of the game that really heightens the tension and heightens the fun. So that is number 4, Unfathomable from the Abyss. That is again Fantasy Flight Games. My number 3 is a game, again, I just played this year, absolutely fell in love with it, and I immediately started playing with one of the expansions. Now, there are more expansions out there that were available. There's one other expansion out there that's available on a Kickstarter. I didn't do the Kickstarter or the GameFound, whatever it was. They brought it back. They brought the GameFound back. I went ahead and went all in for that because I want to get everything. But this is Dune War for Arrakis, the Spacing Guild. Now, Dune War for Arrakis is a great game where, of course, one of you is the Harkonnen Corrinos, one of you is the Atreides Fremen, and of course you can play team games, right? And what you're doing in this game is, of course, the Harkonnens are trying to find the Atreides Fremen sieges. They're trying to find those and destroy them for points, whereas the Atreides and the Fremen, they are trying to chase cards and kind of get their victory point markers up by completing these cards. So it's a very asymmetrical game, action point system based on the War of the Ring game. But here, with the Spacing Guild, what you do is you actually have another way in order to accomplish certain tasks to have the Spacing Guild drop off more troops that you can use and drop off more weapons that you can use. You've got these other kind of spaceships that can arrive that can bombard or move troops. And like I say, you've got the house troops, I think they're called. They can come down and they can add and help you in battle, and they act as leaders and troops, which is really cool. But again, it's just more fun stuff that you're kind of chasing there. One other thing you got to consider when you're playing the game, both what you want to do with it and potentially what your enemies can do with it. It is a fantastic expansion to an absolutely fantastic game, one of the best games I played this year. That is Dune War for Arrakis, the Spacing Guild expansion. And that is from Come On. Now, earlier in this video, I said I might be willing to play a game without the expansion if somebody really wanted to. My number 2 is a game that I don't know if I would. I don't know that I would ever play this game again without the expansion. Maybe, gun to my head, I might, but honestly, I just don't know that I would because I think the expansion is that essential. And this is Star Wars Rebellion, Rise of the Empire. Now, Rise of the Empire kind of introduces characters and ideas from Star Wars Rogue One, so it's kind of getting into the Disney era stuff, which I'm not a huge fan of, although I did like the film Rogue One. But what makes this essential is, as much as I like the base game of Star Wars Rebellion, and I liked so much about it, the combat sucked. The combat just fell flat. Well, Rise of the Empire actually fixes combat. It makes combat fun and interesting. I will say it's still not my favorite combat system, and I probably would have done it different had I been designing it, but it makes it so much better than it was with just the base game. So I absolutely love that just for that reason. Now, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy some of the characters and the missions and the stuff that also come with this expansion quite a bit, but what makes it absolutely essential is how it fixes combat. It makes it so much better than just the base game. So that is my number 2. That is from Fantasy Flight Games, Star Wars Rebellion, Rise of the Empire. Okay, my number 1 expansion I like to play with. A few minutes ago, I just discussed a great game called From the Abyss, Unfathomable, right? That was the expansion. My number 1 game is the game that game was based on, Battlestar Galactica, the board game. I love Battlestar Galactica, the board game. And it had 3 full expansions that came out with it. And honestly, 2 of them I hardly ever touch when I play it. But I always, whenever I can, play with the Pegasus expansion. Now, the Pegasus expansion has 2 parts to it. It's got the new Caprica stuff, which again, I don't touch. I don't do the new Caprica stuff. But what I do play with are some of the characters, and of course, some of the candy, the minis and stuff, but critically, the Pegasus board. I love having that second ship there, more places for your characters to go, to visit, to do things. You got more firepower against the Cylons. it's just, I love playing with the Pegasus board. It to me brings so many more options to the game and fun things to the game that I freaking love it.
And I love the treachery cards.
Again, this is a game, if I have had people come up to me and say, let's just play the game, and I didn't have the option to play with a Pegasus. And I had fun. And I still love the base game without Pegasus. This is actually a point of contention between Zach and I, because he says, no, just the base game, just the base game. I love Pegasus. I love Pegasus. I love playing with Pegasus in this game for all the reasons I've mentioned. And it just, I don't know, to me, it enhances the game of Battlestar Galactica, which is one of my absolute favorite games of all time. Top 5 game, has been consistently, I think, since I first played it. Oh, golly. 10, no, it's more than that. It's more like, I think I first played it in like 2011, 2012. So it's, yeah, love that game. So that is Battlestar Galactica, the Pegasus expansion from Fantasy Flight Games. That is my number 1. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, I'd ask you to check us out on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter. We love to hear from you there as well. Please give a thumb to this video on YouTube and subscribe to us here on YouTube. That means a lot to us. We really appreciate it. And, of course, I would ask you, if you wouldn't mind, please give a thumb to this video on Board Game Geek as well. That also helps us out a lot. Now, if you do like what we do here, I humbly ask you to check out my other channel. That is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about history, military history, fun things like that. I even post some of my lectures on that class from time to time. So please check that out. It would mean the world to me if you would subscribe to that channel as well. And if you do really like the content we bring you here on this channel, I would humbly ask you to click on the Super Thanks button and leave a tip. You know, I made a pirate really mad the other day. I took away his pee.
Please somebody help me on my feet again. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band. God knows that I love to fight, but I don't ever win. It's a fine line to damnation, but God let me in.
Here in the 10 Drops Roastery, roasting some coffee. I'm gonna do, I think, maybe 20 pounds so that I can stay awake for your next video. But congratulations, dude. Impressive work, impressive body of work, impressive body.